Hello everyone, this is Darker Joe, and today I'm gonna be talking about. So, just now they revealed that they're already gonna be nerfing the Avira combo with Candlestick, which I'm sure by now most people have probably already seen it or fought it. I fought it yesterday as well. I did a video actually. I literally just uploaded the video. My last time I did my matches I did in preseason just now, and it included one of the Aviro matches. And this is actually when I didn't look at anything like it. I didn't see anyone else do it type of thing or talk about it, and I was like, oh, that's right. You can actually abuse that with Candlestick. And at first I was like, give him props, give him respect for that the person who fought me with that. But I was like, oh, I guess all the other content creators were doing that and abusing it already. Um, so it was no surprise it was going to be nerfed or changed, but we don't know how it's gonna be changed yet. The thing is though, after fighting it for after fighting it for like 14 minutes for that one match that I did or like something like that, yeah, when you change Elvira, if you're just gonna make so let's say they just make it, oh, this unit S3 can't be reduced by artifacts or something, or by cooldown. You can't reduce the cooldown of it basically, right? If they do something like that, and that's the only thing they do, Elvira actually kind of sucks because she's kind of again, it's too early to tell, but like out of the 14-minute match I was doing, I'm like, she just doesn't offer enough to the team outside of that cheese of Candlestick that they're gonna have to actually buff her other ways too. I hope they actually kind of do, because she kind of she's kind of bad in the end of that because she doesn't do enough. They got me to thinking I didn't even talk about the balance patch yet either. I mean, I did try to make a video of it, but I scrapped it because it was taking too long, and I went over all the units type of thing. But it's just, we should just talk about balance in general here. Like the balance patch right here. Let me just give you a rundown. I'm gonna give you a rundown of like a TLDR of the balance patch. I'll let you know what I think of each individual unit. Like Judge Kisei, I think it's going to be a really good buff now. She's going to be. We don't know how much damage because she's going to lose damage for sure. Because while her S3 is going to do more damage, she's also losing her attack concentration, and they're more focusing on the debuff side. But she is going to be able to. Her S2 is now going to have the soul burn. So, and she's going to be able to death break on S2. So she could S2 S3 with death break and stuff. So she could still cleave. It's just now she's a bit more on the debuffing side, I believe, because she actually offers cannot counterattack on her S2 as well. So we'll have to see. Specimen says they got rid of his built-in Elbrus and they gave him 50% evasion. I'm running a Bruiser Spez right now. So it actually would be better for me on that build, I think, because I already have Dreamblade. I'm running a Bruiser Spez. So this actually might be a decent build now with the new change. So now he's going to have 70 evasion. We're still going to have to see. I think I personally wanted to keep the Elbrus. I think the Elbrus was a really good part on it. They could have just gave him the 50 evasion on top of the Elbrus ability because, I mean, he really needed help. This is like a side grade. It's up I guess it's up to each individual person if they feel that evasion is better than the built-in Elbrus. But it's like, when you think about it, this is a very, very heavy meta. This meta is very heavily there's so much attack, there's so much hit chance units in this meta right now. The amount of times you run into Last Piece Karen, you run into Zahak is a very common pick. Bryceria is almost in every game right now. So there's already enough, and on top of the fact that evasion half the time is a lie, 70% evasion might as well just be 10% evasion because half the times you even get hit by it. All the jokes about Riley being useless because he gets hit, yeah, it's pretty much what it is. The only advantage is the fact that it's built into Spez, so you can't strip it away at least. So maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I'll test him out when he gets buffed and stuff. Spear Eye Celine basically just got maybe a little bit more damage. We'll have to see exactly how much. So that one, she didn't even need to be touched in the first place. She was already strong as she is. So if she doesn't really do anything, if she doesn't really get up or stronger like that, whatever, it's the same. Ho Young, we have to see though, because now she's based off of your attack to the enemy attack instead of the health base. So now you can actually go back with Bruiser Ho Young. So we're gonna see when we see the modifier and see the data mine of how much attack she's losing and stuff. She is losing her 30% built-in attack as well, though, which now makes her a normal Libra warrior stat line. So if you want to see how much attack your Huoyong's gonna have, just use a Libra warrior like Lilibet, like LQC, Holiday Euphine, Luna, Rimuru, I believe. Yeah, so that's the 4 off my head. I think one of the Charlottes, right? No, none of the Charlottes. I said LQC, yeah. So that's the 4 off my head that are Libra warriors. I don't know if I said Luna, but Luna's also one. If I did not say Luna, there's the 5th one. Yeah, if you just use those, you can see where the stat line would be. Elena just basically now strips 2 debuffs on the S3 now, basically, and because they built in her EE into her S3, and then gave an extra one, so it's good. Command Leica basically gets 100% sleep with now she can strip on her S2 once she applies the target. Oxalot's basically got nerfed, so now Spirit's Breath doesn't work on Oxalot's now because Oxalot's S2 is a 3-turn cooldown. But now he also gets effect in this buff, which is another thing I'm going to talk about after this too. Yeah, so basically Oxalot's is getting nerfed because now you can't abuse Spirit's Breath on it, which means Oxalot's is a terrible PvE unit now. It used to actually be a good PvE unit. Used to also be able to use him in Guild Wars a lot with like the double lots plus like any other unit. Like I think a lot of people use Fire Sirmia. At least back then, it used to be you could just use Fire Sirmia and double lots and you destroy people with that. I don't know if that would ever work in Guild Wars anymore because now that worked back then like years ago. You probably can't do it anymore. Anyways, Oxalot's is now bad. He was already kind of bad. Katie's just got 5% more CR push on her passes. So now she pushes up 20% every enemy turn instead of 15. That's not going to save her. People aren't using her because she's not cycling fast enough. People aren't using her because even at 280 ER, you still get debuff. You don't offer enough, and your buffs are so RNG that a lot of the times you get screwed over by the buffs. Like you just get like, oh, I got crit rate buff. All my DPSs obviously already have max crit rate, or it's a unit that doesn't even need to work by crit, like it's like Lone Crescent Bellona. Like what is crit rate going to do for Lone Crescent Bellona? She automatically crits already. Or you give your entire team stealth and you have a Spectre Tenebri on your team. Like, well, my Stene is in the front line now. She's just out in the open. They need to like make the buffs you get. They need to get rid of the useless buffs and to make it so you don't get good buffs type of thing, right? That's why she's not being used. Other than the fact that ER is a joke again. Roman just basically got restrict. He's basically a 4-star male version of Cerise. Congrats. And people are saying, oh, maybe that's for Rift. Maybe Rift is coming up. Maybe Ice Rift is coming up soon. It's like, well, I guess. People are saying the same thing for Momo as well. They're like, oh, maybe Momo got buffed for Ice Rift as well. I'm like, no, because, I mean, she's getting 25% more sleep chance on her S1, and then she's getting 5% more damage reduction against non-elite or boss monsters. That's what people are saying, like, oh, they're using it for Rift. Like, no, her passive is she reduces damage against non-elite or boss monsters. So in RTA or PvP in general, she got 5% more tankier basically, which is nice. But I mean, she's not terrible right now. You could definitely still use her. Circus Fantasia got crit rate now. People are saying, I mean, it's probably for Judge Kisei or Mui. Mana Control basically just got, they reworded it now and they made it so that your hit chance you get, your crit rate now can be on AoEs now. But I mean, the people who use Mana Control are probably like, Light Karen anyways, so they're already single target. I don't know really any thieves that off my head that wants that. Anyways, I mean, maybe it's supposed to be for Sez, I'm assuming, because that's his artifact. Now, this one, Sacred Tree Branch, is actually a very, very good buff. I think people are heavily overlooking this artifact now. So back then, it used to just give you 15 to 30 effectiveness, and when you use the basic skill, it would just increase the highest attack units by 10%. Highest attack units CR by 10%. Now it's still keeping the effectiveness. After attacking, increases the combo radius of the caster and the highest attack unit by 10%. And the thing is, it says after attacking. People are not paying attention to the fact that you used to only do it off of S1s. Now it works off of every attack, and I believe that works off of non. I don't know. We'll have to see, but I believe it also works off of non-attack skills as well. Maybe, well, because it is an attack. It is you. I don't know. We'll have to see, because if it is non-attack skills as well, then you can. It's a very strong one with Summer Luluka. Because imagine that they use a non-attack skill. Summer Luluka gets pushed up. Use S3. Now you cleanse 2 debuffs, give all your buffs and everything, and now it's gonna push herself and the ally up by 10%, and then you truck, which is gonna push them up by another 10%, and you by another 10%. So that means your Luluka's gonna be at 20% CR push, and then your highest tech unit gets pushed by 20% as well. Or what I think is really fun, really good with Inos now. The new the special change Inos now. You S3. You cleanse 1 debuff off of dark units, whatever. You give attack buff and speed buff to your team, and then it's going to push up your highest attack unit by 10%, and then when you end your turn, you're going to push that same unit by 20%. So now Inos is going to get 30% CR push, and pushes herself up 10%. And then every time and then also Inos is a soldier that actually does want effectiveness because she has Death Break on S1. Obviously, it's good for Sharoon. I think it'll be pretty good with Shuna as well. I think this is going to be one of the best Soul Weaver artifacts outside of like if you have enough ER on your unit that you can sacrifice not having an ER artifact on them, and you're a unit that can use effectiveness. This is an amazing artifact. Now, so definitely a good buff here though. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly go through that. Not take too long on that, because I want to talk about just balance in general, because I got to get ready for work soon, so I do not have too much time to talk. But what annoys me though is the fact that I don't need to be on here. I like the fact that it's good that they're doing this already, right? Because I think it's unhealthy for this, because if you look at this. Keep in mind, I got lucky with my match, right? And okay, you'll see. I kind of spoiled it. I kind of spoiled I kind of spoiled the win of this. But like watch. I'm obviously not gonna play the whole thing, right? But keep in mind, I got lucky. This is a 64 turn game. I've seen people with like 150, 200 turns and something like that. And the only reason I won is the fact that I have two of my DPS units has self-sustain with S1s, and Millam's Wahaha, her S2 strips souls from the enemy. So the only reason why I won is the fact that she never had souls, and two of my DPSs just had sustain in it. So I was able to survive through it, and then pray they didn't proc. No, they didn't proc Candlestick. And that's the only reason why I pretty much won. So it makes sense why they're nerfing it. But at the same time, it's like, okay. But then there's units that's been, destroying the meta right now. I still stand by this. I don't care what people are saying, because like this, I still think Lua is the most broken unit in the game. I still think. I mean, some people will say, oh, it's Abyssal Euphine. Oh, it's ML Landy, or it's AOL. I'm like, okay, well, AOL you can just cleanse off the debuffs. There's Hand Guy. There's ways you could fight AOL. I do agree that she does need to be nerfed as well, but she is not the most broken. I think she might be in top 3, but she's not the most broken. ML Landy and A Euphine at least has some counters. What counters do you have against Lua? Besides for Fire Lilius on Mort Artifact, which has a great counter into like Guild Wars and Arena, right? That's fine. But in RTA, they can just ban that first of all, or they can use someone else faster that has a non-attack skill, like their Lilius, like their Conqueror Lilius, or they just debuff the hell out of Lilius so that she doesn't get a turn to if they go that one artifact. Song of Stars, then technically, yeah, she can't cleanse herself, and then she can't get the return reduced though. Or yeah, but outside of that, what other counters are there? There's basically having, you can't even say high ER because she could soul burn it and guarantee it. The only other option you have is having a barrier set on your unit and having everyone on your team with immunity. Like, I'm sorry. I understand having immunity is important and stuff, but I understand if you were saying like, oh, have immunity on your slower, bruiser units, like, you could say like obviously Rem, like stuff like ML Bologna. I can see all that stuff, but I am not taking a pen set off of my DPS units. I am not taking just to fight one freaking unit because there's no actual counters to her, and she's been out for almost 2 years now, or maybe it was 2 years. Like, she is, to me, the one unit that has to be nerfed. I'm tired of fighting Lua. I'm tired of her. And the same thing with Naquil as well. I mean, Naquil at least has counters, though. So, because she's a fire unit and she needs a hit. So, you can use a lot of ice units. You can use evasion units and stuff. So, that one is not so bad. So, like, I don't necessarily I don't think you need to ban, nerf Naquil. But it's the idea that Reset has no counters at all in this entire game. If you get reset, you are screwed. And I'm fine with, like, desiring a little bit resetting because at least she doesn't strip your opponent for doing it type of thing. So if you have immunity, you're fine. And Dilibet's only just a counter into heavy debuff teams anyways. I don't mind, Felitica reset because at least Felitica only hits one unit. And it's just a single target strip. It's a single target. It's a single target reset, and the only way she could strip is on her S2, which you could punish. So I'm fine with Felitica being able to reset. But then you're gonna go like, oh, well, now we're gonna buff up Judge Kisei, which again, I know Judge Kisei always had the reset, right? Because right now she can reset up to 3 times, but like she isn't really a meta. She's right now she's kind of sucks, and we don't know how she's gonna be with the buff. But that's the thing, though. When the buff hits, she's going to be a bit more consistent because now it's 100%. Well, now it's going to be 100% chance. It may only be one turn, but it'll be 100% chance. Because right now it's what, 70, 80? Looks like an 80% chance right now. 3 chances with an 80% chance and stuff. So I think it only strips one buff. I think. Yeah, okay. But. And that's the thing, like, if she becomes meta and she becomes a strong unit, even if she's not used for cleave, she might be used for the debuffing side. There is still no physical counters to deal with getting reset. You get reset, you monster top right, unless your team is tanking enough to survive until you get your cooldowns back. And that's what they need to introduce, a unit that stops that can either say that goes like, hey, I cannot be reset, and I can reduce the cooldown of my allies by 1 turn, or something. And there's 2 ways you could do that too, actually. There's there's one way you can do it right now, and there's one way I'm suggesting. There's one way you can do that right now, and that's no one's gonna want this because they don't want to pick him, but it's gonna be Fire Dingo, because Fire Dingo technically right now, he provides his S3 dispels all debuffs, gives all the team crit chance, I guess, but whatever, and then decreases their cooldowns by 1. Also he lowers the cooldown by 1 every time an enemy dies too. But like, if you buff him to be a strong counter into resets, that will be good too, because. But the thing is, that means either you need to make him so he can't get reset as well, or just make him have a massive amount of ER. But how are you gonna do that? He has no freaking ER in his. He gets no ER here, so to get like 300 ER, which, again. 300 ER doesn't mean jack shit in this game because, first of all, ignore effect resistance is a joke, and it's like, I don't know why they introduced that shit in the game, because it's already ignoring like the entirety of what ER builders go for. But like, for example, let's say stats, effect resistance. So my Moon Bunny is the highest like base ER I have technically without artifacts including, 256 ER. I resist most things, but I still get hit by a lot of the high effectiveness units. My Infinite Horizon Arcades with 272 ER. My Fire Arcades with 263 ER. And I've gotten debuffed a lot. Like, And I bet you these units that debuff these units probably barely have under 200 effectiveness. Like that's the thing. Like the effectiveness you get 100 free effectiveness over the ER basically. So at 256 ER, which I am sacrificing a lot of bulk, a lot of speed for, I'm gonna get hit by people with maybe 160, 170 effectiveness. And they're not sacrificing all that much. They're getting 160, 170, right? Like, well, speed set, because you think about it, effectiveness, because a lot of times they're probably on effectiveness, and then they're going to be on this. So they'd be like, what, 85 for hit set plus effect ring? Plus, a lot of times they have 30 free effectiveness anyway, so that's 110 or something like that, with only one piece and in one set. So that means they just need to hit, like, what, 60 more effectiveness within 5 pieces of gear, and they can effectively debuff her. Where I spent, like, a lot. Okay, actually, that one's not a lot of ER. But, like, I spent, like, 19 on that one. That one's got, well, I guess that one. Okay, these two are not that high. 38, obviously 65, 36. So I guess these two not, but, like, these also, like, I guess I could do a better weapon than that. But let's do an example, like my Katie's, though. I think my Katie's has, what, 23, 19, 22, 44. Oh yeah, obviously effectiveness ring, and then 15, right? So sacrificing a decent amount to get this, and obviously she's already slow, so that, but she's got decent bulk. But again, she's what, 260? She's 263, and that means they need to have a unit with what, 160? Yeah, it's maybe 163, maybe 170 effectiveness could debuff her. I'm at 260. Like, the fact that you can get debuffed by units with 90 effectiveness under your ER is ridiculous. And that's not including the fact that the way the frenzy works, just give it a few frenzies if worst case, and then they'll hit you anyways, because then they get a free 100 effectiveness. But I get that's why they do that to speed up the matches and stuff, and that's fine. But like, they need to fix the effectiveness and ER thing. And before you say, well, 15%, I'm like, well, that's because a lot of times we need it, because half the freaking meta right now have ignore effect resistance. So if we build 300 ER on our units, and then you just have 20 souls, you completely ignore the entirety of our units build for free, with you having no effectiveness already. And which is another thing that kind of pissed me off too, is because on the oxalots, the one thing they are giving oxalots for, reducing the cooldown, increasing the cooldown, making it 3 turns now, is they're giving him his buff. He's going to get effectiveness buff as well. It's like, great, effectiveness buff. Okay, so that means that the new Judge Kisei is going to get 27 effectiveness from her imprints. I don't believe she gets any effectiveness in her actual kit, though. I don't think she has any effectiveness in her awakens, right? But like, it's still 27 there. She gets, if she goes Circus Fantasia, that's another 50 right there. So if you have a triple S Judge Kisei, that's 77. Let's see, do you any on here? Oh yeah, 18. Okay, so that means that's 95 effectiveness. If right then and there, if you go Circus Fantasia plus your triple S, that's 95, which means you can already hit 180 ER units for free without any effectiveness in your build. And then, so you can go full DPS. With all that, you would have 95 effectiveness, right? You get hit by Oxlots, which now gives you 50 more effectiveness because effectiveness buff. That means you have like you have 145 effectiveness. Basically meaning you can hit 230 ER units for free. No effectiveness build at all. So you go effectiveness ring, that's just all you need, effectiveness ring, and then you basically hit 300 ER units for one piece of gear. Not including the fact that that's just free 65 effectiveness. That's just all you need, is just that 65 effectiveness in your ring. Because then you'd be at like nearly 200 effectiveness, I think, right? Because you'd be at 130, it's 195. So, yeah. Wait, I said 95, so that's 145 with effectiveness buff. So, and the ring will put you at 210, I believe. So, yeah, you can basically hit 300 ER units with just no other stat except for the effectiveness ring, and then everything else can be full damage if you want to. Because of Oxlots. And it's not just that, like, the amount of units now that just get free effectiveness, like, oh, let's give Arrowell effectiveness buff. Because why not, right? So, SC Arrow gets effectiveness buff now, and then you get, like, units like Bihu, Pyro Captain Flan, they both get free effectiveness. A lot of the units are just getting effectiveness buff. And then, even on here, where you're like, okay, SC Christie. Christie's all about giving half of her ER to the unit in the back line. Obviously, her SC's her special chain is going to make her get increase in ER or something like that, right? Or bulk, so you can go more ER. No, we're going to give her effectiveness too. Like, why? Debuff meta is already insanely high right now. I know Chrissy is not terrible as people say, as terrible as people thought. Like, she's still okay. She's still pretty decent. Only because Christie herself was already good. You take an already good 3-star, and even if you do trash on the SC, if the unit's already good, it's still going to be decent. Like, for example, Inos. Inos was already a good 3-star. The only thing she needed was the only thing base Inos needed was bulk, right? Because she had one of the lowest HPs in the game. So they gave her what she needed, though. It doesn't show here, but they gave her what she needed, which was bulk. They gave her like 25% more HP, the 15% more defense, and more speed. Even though her rest of her kit on the special chain was a bit more kind of not necessarily kind of niche, it was still fine because she was still a good unit overall. That's why she's still a good unit now. She's just now she works really well with dark units, but right now the meta is more light heavy than dark. I mean, I'm not saying there's no dark units, obviously, but there's still meta dark units, but you don't really want to draft so much dark when there's Aiden and LQC, because again, we still don't have a full-on like light counter. Like, we don't have Aiden and LQC are dark counters. We don't have a light counter outside of Axe God, which Axe God is still kind of mediocre. I mean, he can work, but it's like, no. Like, we need to have a dark unit that actually does something against light units, because light unit is still very strong. But, like, yeah, no. I think they need to get into nerfing units, or at least if they're going to do this whole, we'll just introduce units that counter said unit. Which, before I leave this, I'm going to say this real quick. I never, ever liked the whole idea of we're going to introduce units that counter X unit, because anyone who's played in the past, anyone who's played like 3 or 4 years ago, knows that the menace that Basar was, right? He was insanely broken. He was I think it was the first 2 seasons of RTA as well. He was the top tier unit, or maybe How Do You Think came out before RTA? I don't know. But he was like the go-to. He was in Guild Wars, he was in Arena, he was in RTA, I think, for the first 2 seasons, and he was dominating people. He was a must-ban unit, a must-pick unit. He was broken as hell. Instead of nerfing him, they gave us How Do You Feed, which, worked at that point, right? Because she basically just straight up countered Basar, and Basar fell out of the meta and was never picked again. Honestly, part of it is also because everyone's getting too fast for him now, so... Because later on they introduced Cerise and stuff, which also countered, which also heavily outsped and stuff. So 108 speed, I think, is how much Basar was, or maybe he was 112. He was just too slow. This was another reason why he kind of fell out. Because if it was just one unit, they could just ban How Do You Feel and you're screwed anyways. But like, I think it's because the meta got too fast for him. But like, How Do You Feel came out and people stopped using Basar on defenses and stuff, and then in the RTA. But then her build was strictly 100% to counter Basar, and then after Basar left, she was useless. No one ever picked her because she was strictly used to counter one unit, and because of that, she was a dumpster fire for like a whole year until she got multiple buffs. Now she's pretty good. I still think she's great into anti-cleave. You guys probably see me use her a lot. She's great into like a Rand cleave. She's a great Rand cleave. That's only because of guide to decision, but it's actually only 70% of the time it only works. So like if you get hit, she's useless. But like yeah, she was trash. Designer Lilibet was another unit. Designer Lilibet was another unit that was like designed to beat one combo. It was designed to beat Cerise and Fairy Tail Tenebria. After those two stopped being used together, she was trash for a bit until they buffed her. And that's the thing. I don't like the whole we'll introduce one unit to counter this unit. It's like, but then when that unit stops, your unit you're used to counter it's gonna be trash. And that's the same thing with freaking Blood Moon Haste. He is by far probably the worst ML5 right now, and one of the worst units in the game, at least usable units, I guess you say, because obviously, Enot's worse than him, but like he's like the worst 5-star in the game probably. Well, Moonlight 5-star at least, right? Because he was strictly there to counter Arby. Well, Arby's not being picked anymore, and honestly, he didn't really counter Arby because Arby just went bruiser at that point, and then he probably would die before Arby did, depending on the team. And then so he was honestly the only thing he ended up hurting was Maid. Well, for most of the time, it stopped RB from being the full clear RB, but and that's why I don't like it, because it just makes so when you introduce a unit that counts one unit, it's like when that unit stops being picked, the unit becomes trash and no one ever picks them again until they're buff. Speaking of buff, I completely forgot about this. Dilibet doesn't really necessarily need a buff, but what you could do is if you want to buff, if you want to counter Lua another way, you can do this. Why don't you just make Dilibet, when she procs her S2, she reduces one cooldown on herself. So let's say she reduces her cooldown of her S3 by 1 turn whenever her S2 procs, and then make it so her S3, when she uses her S3, she reduces 1 cooldown of your team by 1. Not herself though. Her only her allies. When she uses S3, she reduces 1 cooldown of her allies by 1 turn. That way she counters Lua, and she gets herself more versatility throughout the match. So it's not just I just used my S3 and I'm just gonna be kind of hard to debuff. That's just my thing, right? Because then it gives her more throughout the match. She's more usable throughout the match if she's slowly reducing her cooldown, and then she has 3s and then reduces one of her. She reduces the cooldown of her allies. It's also a way to beat Lua, because Lua does enough debuffs that it should proc emergency stitching, which means that she'll reduce her cooldown by herself, so she avoids the reset from Lua, and then she S3s and then re gets the cooldown back to her allies. So she would counter Lua then. That would give you another good answer for Lua. Why don't you do this? That's all you gotta do. Just those 2 changes. Dilibet becomes a much better unit throughout the entire match instead of just the first turn. And she might even have more potential to be used even outside full debuff teams, because you're going to be fighting a debuff. The enemy team's going to have at least 1 or 2 debuffers on their team. So if it's not a heavy debuff team, you can still potentially use her, because it gives her more throughout the match, and it can stop Lua, or reset units in general, like Nockwell, or if Judge Gisa gets too strong. Yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you do it with a unit that's, it's a strong unit too. It's a unit that people want to pull for. It's a ML5, so you're going to get money off of it, and it's a way to stop Lua. That's all you had to do. But of course, I'm not the developer, so I'm not the one who's in charge of balance. Instead, they're going to give Romans restrict. Give Angelic Momo 5% more damage reduction against non-elite or boss monsters. 5% more CR push. That's what we need in this meta. Everyone really hates this meta right now. It's so boring. It's so RNG heavy. It's so tiring. Every meta is worse than the one before it. And this was literally the best time to do big changes, because this is at preseason. This is preseason, and this is away from E7, E7WC. Because in a few months later, let's say I don't know when it starts, but they're gonna go now we're gonna be very, very. We're gonna make sure we don't do any big changes because we don't want to affect E7WC. Okay, but why didn't you do big changes when it was preseason and it's far away from the E7WC? Because you know when that hits, even not the finals or the tournament type, the big tournament, like when there's only 8 people left type of thing. Even just the preliminaries, they're gonna go like, we don't want to do big changes. Then do changes here. Then do big changes now. This isn't big changes. This isn't gonna affect the meta. We're going to see maybe 1 or 2 units being potentially useful. Hoyoung might come back, maybe. We got to see how the modifiers look. Judge Kisei might become strong. Celine's the same exact thing she's always been doing. Everyone else is going to be useless. Everyone else is going to be doing the same thing they've been doing. In fact, you just basically killed Oxlots, and like Leica maybe a little bit better now, sure. This is the only major thing we gotten out of this was Sacred Tree Branch, maybe Hoyoung, and Judge Kisei. Maybe Spez works really well with evasion. We'll see. But I still think he's not going to do anything. He's still going to be useless. So this whole balance patch is going to be terrible. It's going to be the same freaking meta. And instead of nerfing the units that we have problems with, everyone's pre-ban. A lot of people pre-banning Lua. She's one of the highest pre-bans in the entire game. And she's been like that for 2 years. And instead of that, you guys are screwing up and then immediately doing this. Which, again, I understand needs to be nerfed. 100%. Right, needs to be changed. But where was this for Lua? Or where's the actual counter to Lua? I'm tired. And if you're not going to nerf units, actually nerf units, how about this? Give us a 3rd pre-ban. Make it so every rank gets 2 pre-bans, and if you're master rank or plus, you get 3 pre-bans. At least give us another pre-ban. Before you say, well, we don't like giving more pre-bans, then you guys are going to want more pre-bans later on. Well, you're introducing like 10 units a year, basically, if not more. And there's going to be at least 3 or 4 more broken units that we have to pre-ban every single game. Now, because a lot of times we're wasting our pre-ban on on Abyssal Euphine or Abyssal or ML Landy. But what about all the units we were just pre-banning last season or the season before that, like AOL, like Lua, like Sea Lilies? Well, I don't have a problem with Sea Lilies, but you know what I mean. No, or Zeo. We're pre-banning. We used to pre-ban those units, but now we're forced to pre-ban the new units you're introducing. So we got to fight the old units now. We just give us a 3rd pre-ban at least if you're not going to nerf units, or you're not going to buff units to actually be useful. So yeah. I wanted to be a quick video. Actually, 37 minutes isn't so bad compared to my last one I did this was like 50 minutes. So but not too bad. All right. Anyways, I'll probably be posting this. This is on like 11:40 on like what, Thursday? I'll probably be posting this when I get home. So I'll probably be posting this sometime later today around like 8 or 9 or whatever. But yeah, that's my opinion. So that's my quick rundown of that and balance and a bit of a rant in general. Again, like I said, I am not complaining about the whole Elvira change. They needed to do that. But the thing is, like, it annoys me though that how quick they are to do that when units that are actually broken with no full-on counters, like Lua, still exist after what, 2 years? Fire Lilius is the counter. Yeah, okay. They can, even if that is true, which she can counter. They can just post ban it, or they can just pick another unit to fight it. Or even if that that's true, that's 1 freaking counter. You guys are quick introducing like whenever there's another strong unit out there. You guys are quick introducing 3, 4, 5, 6. Whenever a broken unit comes out, you guys are like the next like 3 or 4 units to come out is to counter that said unit. We never have a counter against Lua ever since she was released, besides for the Fire Lilius plus more artifact combo. Like, where's the counters to getting reset? There's physically no counters to that. You get reset, you might as well just top right. That's what annoys me the most. Everything in the game has counters, but if you're Lua, nah, you're fine. You're fine. We're not gonna touch that. A Guardian Light unit, nah, can't afford to hit our Guardian Light stash right there. Nope. Anyways, sorry. I didn't mean to make this still that big of a rant, but this ended up being a little bit longer than before than I wanted to. But you know what? Screw it. I will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully, it'll be with more not bullcrap, anger, or rant type of thing. But this is my first time I actually did a full-on rant video It didn't mean to start off as a rant too. It just some units just really pissed me off. Anyways, I will see you guys next video.